Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamoya. If this is your first time here, you get beauty, lifestyle, and a little bit of bookish content on my page. So if that is something you like, be sure to keep on watching and welcome, welcome, welcome. So I decided to do this video and I'm going to include the 53 books that I read in 2024. I figured I wanted to start a new playlist with my bookish content because I've been sprinkling my bookish stuff throughout my vlogs and throughout my content here on my page. I've shown my 2025 reading journal and setting up and all that stuff. I'm always talking about the books I'm reading here and there, but I kind of want to put them all in one place. So I will be dedicating 2 videos per month to my bookish content. So the first video will be like planning for the new month, books I want to read for the month, how many books, just all the things I want to do for that month. And then closer to the end of the month, I will do a second video of everything that I read in that month. So I'm doing this video of the 53 books that I read. And then at the end of January, I will do a bookish update or recap or something. I'm going to try to come up with like a little phrase for it, but you will get a recap of what I read that month, especially since I'm reading way more books now. So yeah, that's my goal going forward with my bookish content. I didn't want to start a new Instagram for books because it would just be too much work. So I just feel like if I just kind of organize it, so if you're here for my bookish content, you can find it. But then if you still want to see all the other things I'm doing, my hair, my skincare, random things, you will still get that. So there's a ton of playlists on my page, so I'm gonna just make a new one for books. So that's the recap. So we're gonna get into how I end up reading 53 books for the year. So first of all, I set a goal last year that I wanted to read 1 book per month, and it started off rough. I started one self-help book, barely finished it, and then I started another like spiritual book, and I was enjoying it. It was just not the type of book that you will sit here and read for 10 hours. Like that's something that I feel like I read a couple pages and I stop, a couple pages and I stop, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should read something else. And at that time, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I follow a lot of people, and some of my favorite girls, they read. So every now and then I would see something about books and it would kind of catch my attention, but I was like, I'm not a reader. But eventually I was like, you know what, I need something else because I need to switch it up because I'm not on track with the goals that I set. So at the time, I was seeing Kennedy Ryan's book Before I Let Go all over TikTok. Every now and then, I would see a video popped up about how great that book was. And at the time, I believe the second book was already out or coming out. So I was kind of seeing both books here and there. And I was like, well, I have to start with the first book. So I picked the first book and I was set a goal for I set the goal to read about 15 minutes before bed every night. And there were some nights I was tired, my eyes were closing. And when you start to read, you don't really get what you're reading. You're just seeing words. So it took me a little minute to kind of get into like the flow of reading. And I went from only reading 5 minutes before bed to reading while I'm at work or reading on my days off. And I started to kind of get start to get into it. That book took me a month to finish. But after that, the rest is just history. The rest is history. I read 1 book in April, 1 book in May. And I think after that, it was like 3 books in June. And after that, it was like 5 books per month. So yeah, quite the journey. And I finished the year reading 53 books. So we're going to get into it. Let me grab my reading journal because that's where I kept track of everything that I read. So reading journaling is great for that because you're able to kind of save all the book covers and all the things that you read, and it just makes reading so much fun. All right, so we're going to group these into authors just to make this video go by a little faster. So, or should I go by month? No, I'm going to go by authors. So starting with Kennedy Ryan, I already gave you guys a little gist of how I started with Kennedy Ryan. So the first book I read, or the first actual novel that I read in 2024, was Before I Let Go. I've showed this over and over again. Absolutely love this book. This is a second chance romance now that I know all the book terms. When I started reading this, I didn't know all the book terms. So this was a second chance romance. The couple, the main characters in this book, they were married, they got divorced, and you get to kind of see, it starts off with like their life currently, how they're co-parenting, the kids, the business they're running together. They had a restaurant that they jointly were running. So you kind of see how they're navigating their life now. And then later in the book, you get to see what was it that tore them apart? What was the thing that, caused these two people to break up? So that part was very emotional, very sad, very like relatable at the same time, because I think that so many married people go through this, and you get to see them navigating that and therapy. And the male was against therapy. He ended up going to therapy because the son, they had like two kids, and one of the kids is the boy. He was struggling with just everything going on. So in order to support his son going to therapy, he decided to go to therapy. And you get to see how, he didn't like it at first. And then you start to see him open up and trying to navigate that. And then you get to see how, like, the feelings of them trying to be like, should we get back together or not? So this, if you're someone who's just looking for a beautiful romance without a ton of like the spice, and by spice, for those of you who don't know, sex. If you don't want to have a ton of spice, well, there's still spice in here, but it's done beautifully. It's not overly, it's just a beautiful love story. I don't know what else to say about it. But this was a really, really good first read that got me into reading, and I will forever be grateful. And then again, like I said, after I read this, I picked up the second book because I was like, wait, the second book I came out, when did this come out? After I finished Before I Let Go, the second book was already out, which is This Could Be Us. And it follows another friend that was mentioned in here, and you get to see her story. So in book one, you get to see her marriage being mentioned, where they're like, why are you with that guy? You deserve better. And then in this book, you get to see kind of the dynamic of her relationship, which was very different from the first book. So this was not like a second, because I don't want to spoil it. I'm only going to read what's on the back of the book. So it says, she's never met a party she couldn't host or a charge she couldn't lead, but none of her varied talents helped when the life she built with the man who was supposed to be her forever goes poof in the cloud of betrayal and disillusion. So the guy she's married to does something, and her world get torn apart. And so now she's navigating being by herself. What is it that she want to do with her life? Like, how is she gonna move forward? She has kids as well, so there's no time to really sit and cry. She has to figure out how to move on and provide for her kids. She so it says, in the process of saving them all, Soledad rediscovers herself, and that was my favorite thing about this book. If you've been here for a while, you know how I feel about self care, self love, all the things, and this book was that. And she ended up being a like a not real influencer type thing, so it has a soft spot for me. And also, there's a love interest. His name is Judah Cross. It says, but when Judah Cross, brilliant single dad, absolutely last man she should want, but can't seem to resist, enters the pictures. I can't talk. When the last man she should want, but can't seem to resist, enters the picture. Can she trust him? Can she trust herself after everything she's been through? Like, what should she do? So she was very firm on focusing on herself, doing what she needs to do for her and her kids, despite this fine man being there. And he was like, I'm going to be here for you. So he was very persistent, but at the same time gave her space to do what she wanted to do. So love this as well. Then, since we're keeping it by author, I read Real later into the year. This was another Kennedy Ryan book that I kept hearing about. And at this point, I'm in love with Kennedy Ryan. So I was like, I need to go through her books and see what they're all about. This one was an emotional one for me. This book, the female Neva has lupus. And if you know anything about lupus, I lost two aunts to lupus. So this was very close to home for me. I had to pause this book a lot. I think I read it around August. Like I had to pause and take deep breaths and go back to it. But it is a beautiful love story. She is a like a Broadway um actress, and then this guy is looking for a female to play in his movie that he's producing. So he's producing this like um I can't think of it, Harlem Renaissance biopic, but he's like, I need to find the perfect female to take this role. So he goes to her show kind of by accident. Well, his friend invited him to this Broadway show or whatever it was. And immediately when he saw Neva perform, he was like, that's the female right there. So he's drawn to her, but obviously it's kind of like a forbidden romance because he's the producer. He's not supposed to be dating his actors, but they couldn't stay away from each other. But then you get to see all of everything that makes him into this amazing man, and then you get to see her dealing with family issues and strained relationship with her sister and her mom, and then of course the disease that she's fighting. You get to see all of that as well as the making of the show. So this is a book one in the new series that she has going, and I think she said book two will be like next year. But yeah, this is a really really good book. There were people saying that the male was a little bit too controlling, but I never got controlling vibes from him. I feel like he was just a grown man that knew what he want, and he was a producer. Like when you think of someone like a CEO, a guy in a leadership position like that, he's not gonna just let people run him over. Like he has to be this, not cocky because he wasn't cocky, but he has to be like this firm guy. Like he cannot just be smiling, talking with everybody. He's gonna be a little grumpy. So that's, I feel like that's what Cannon was in this book. I don't think he was controlling, but I think he was just a firm man, and he was everything Neva needed. So it is what it is. So that was my third Kennedy Ryan book, and the last book I read by Kennedy Ryan was Long Shot. It's up here, but let me grab it. I'm like, should I grab it? I'm taking down all these books now. I gotta put them back up. But the next book I read by Kennedy Ryan is Long Shot. This one, whew, this one was also heavy. So if you're, this is the thing, if you're looking for a romance that has depth, it's gonna have some issues that they have to work through. Kennedy Ryan is that author. So Long Shot, and this is book one in the Hoop series. I still need to read book two. It needs to, yeah, I gotta read it at some point soon. But this is book one in the series. This has a lot of Dumbat references in here, abuse, and if you don't want that graphic detail of what she went through, not by the main guy that she's fallen in love with now, but the relationship she was in prior and all that stuff. If you don't want the details, trigger warning. But if you can read through that and make it through, the story itself is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, this says it's a sports romance. August West is the guy she meets now. And then Iris is the name of the female. But yeah, enjoy this as well. 5 stars, in my opinion. Like 5 stars. So yeah, Kennedy Ryan. That's all my Kennedy Ryan reads, I think. Yeah, those are all my Kennedy Ryan reads. Next, we're gonna talk about Natasha Bishop. I only read 3 books from her, I think. See, I should have been a little bit more organized if I'm gonna do it by author, but let's just go with the flow. So Natasha Bishop, I think I read her book around June, only for the week. It was recently re-released. Um, Here's the new copy of the book I showed around December, I think it came out. Yeah, it got released around December 14th. So basically, she had released the book a couple years ago. It went viral, and now it was traditionally re-released so that you where you will see it more in other bookstores and stuff like that, like Barnes and Noble and all that stuff. So I plan to reread this at some point. I'm probably gonna reread it before she comes out with another book in this series, because now this is a series, the Forever Fallen series. But yeah, this is a, what do you call this? I don't want to say it's forbidden romance. I don't really think it's forbidden romance, but I guess you, I don't even know what to call it. But basically, the gist of it is her sister is now marrying her ex. She wasn't crazy about the ex, so it's no big deal. But her sister is known to be controlling. She's a full on bridezilla. There's some family drama. She doesn't set boundaries with her family. So it's a lot of that going on. Rome is the best man to the ex, right? So Rome kind of have a little attraction there, but he's like, that was my boy's girlfriend, so I can't be with her. But now that she's single, he's like, we're going to Mexico for this wedding. Let me be that stress reliever for you for a week. Well, he wanted both 2 weeks, but she's like, just a week. So he decided that he's going to take the stress away for a week. And during that time, she was like his sounding board. Like she could vent to him about all the things that was going on, how demanding her sister was. And he was just always there to like speak life into her and push her to set boundaries and push her to speak up for herself and just stuff like that. So I feel like he gave her that beyond the spice. There's a lot of spice in here, but beyond the spice, he really leaned into helping her find her voice. And I love that about this book. So I had to get the physical copy to support. But overall, that was a good book. And then the second book I read from her was Where We Found Our Home. I will insert a picture of the cover because I read on Kindle. But this one is another series. What do you call it? The Lost and Found series? I'm like, what is the series called? Lost and Found series. This is book one. It's a firefighter. um the female, she was running from a stalker, so there was a little bit of darkness in the book where I didn't know if the stalker was like an ex, but he turns out to just be some guy that just started stalking her. But she moved to a whole new city because he's threatened to do harm to her and her family. She moves to a new place. She's trying to be low key. He followed her there. He found where she was. She likes this guy and his family. Was like a found family too, because that friend group is just one of my favorite friend groups in all the books that I've read. But yeah, she was like, I can't really get close to you guys because I don't want to cause danger. And every now and then you'll see the stalker pops up and do something, and you're just like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen? So he has that dark element of the stalker and dealing with that. But in all of that chaos, she found love with Lincoln, who is a firefighter, and you just see him be an amazing man because all these books just have amazing men in there. So you get to see that, and that was beautiful. I also read book number two, which was Where We Found Our Heart. What did I say? Home, yeah. Where We Found Our Heart was book two. Follows another friend, Nina. She has this one night stand with one of the other friends, which is Isaiah. Isaiah was the brother of the guy in the first book. He's the younger brother. So in book one, the firefighter was Lincoln. In book two, Isaiah is the brother of Lincoln. Nina is a friend, had a one night stand, but she used protection and she has birth control, but magically she's pregnant. So this was one of my favorite books from the series because it was just so funny. Like it was relatable, but it was also funny. And of course, their love story was beautiful. Just always seeing them come together. But a lot happened in this book with both parties just navigating her. Um, like she had to take custody of her two younger siblings, so basically they are now her kids because her parents died. And then he's dealing with an ex-girlfriend situation, blah blah blah. So you get to kind of see their individual stories, but again, coming together. But he's that jokester person that you're always like, can I take you seriously? So there's always that. But he loved that girl. Okay, so that was, I think, all the Natasha Bishops that I read. And then book number three, I actually literally just finished today book number three, so that will be in my January wrap ups. But yeah, finish. Well, she's gonna come out with more books in the series, so yeah, we're just on hold for that. Next up is Robbie Renee, another black author. She wrote Somebody's Wife. Now, when I first saw that title, obviously I'm thinking somebody's wife cheating, but that's not what the book was about at all. She has been with this guy since college, and all of a sudden he just kind of got distant, and they just grew apart. They're sleeping in separate bedrooms. They are, did she ask for it? He did something to cause her to ask for the divorce and all that stuff. So you get to see her new love interest, but still trying to deal with all that before she moves on to this. So it's not like, oh, a little sneaking around. No, that's not what this book was about at all. But yeah, this was a beautiful story to read of just, it was at a HBCU college. She is a professor at the college. The guy is a professor there as well. Just all the things. It's a good book. A good book. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 5 star too. I was just handing out 5 stars because hello. And then this year, which you guys will see later, I read Somebody's Husband, another great book by the author. But that was one of the main Robbie Renee books that I read. I think I read another short one by her to end out the year. It was called, I'm trying to look for it right now, French Kiss Christmas. It was just a short Christmas read. um I think it was under 100 pages. Basically, the girl in the short series, she something happened around Christmas that makes her not like Christmas because it was so tragic. So the guy she's dating now was determined to just make her Christmas extra special and take her away to Paris. So it was nice to read something where the couple was already together and the guy's doing something for her without it being like, oh, she's meeting a new guy. So they were already together. He just wanted to make that Christmas like special. And I think that's the only Robbie Renee that I read in 2024. All right, I read A Love Letter to Whiskey. This was a TikTok recommendation as well. The author is not black. The couple is interracial. I think the girl is black or she's mixed, and then the guy is white. This was my first book that had me staying up late nights. When I say there was one night, I remember I was like going to bed and I was like, I am so tired. I'm going to go to sleep, and I got in the room and I just started reading again. And I end up like, I was supposed to go to sleep like 9 or 10. I was up to like 1 or 2 reading. So this was one of the first book around June that kept me up, like literally kept me up reading. So it is a roller coaster. It was like a second chance romance, but it was more like two people could not be on the same page at the same time. Like, get it together type of book. Like, we know you belong together. Can you please be together? And up to the last second of the book, I didn't think they were going to get together. I did not think they were ever going to be on the same page, literally to the end of the book. Whew. So that is a nice read for sure. Next is, and that, oh, I forgot to say who the author was. That author is Kandi Steiner. She has a lot of other books, and I might dibble and dabble in her catalog later on. But honestly, I have so many books to read right now. I don't need any more books on my TBR. I have way too many books that I want to read. So I will circle back to her at some point. Next book is Honey and Spice by Babalola. Hope I say her name right. She is a English author, and I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was like, I want to start following more Black English and Canadian and Jamaican authors on my Bookstagram because I want to know when they're dropping and stuff like that. Because I think there's gonna be another book to follow up to Honey and Spice. But this one, let's see if I can remember. They're in college. Obviously, it's a black college, and she has like a radio station. So she's the girl on campus that has this radio station, very brilliant, and she tells the girls on. She's a girls. she's a girl's girl. She's telling all the girls on campus, like, look, don't let these boys distract you. Don't let them get in your head. Like, stay focused. But then this new guy comes to campus and she gets distracted and she's like, hold up, hold up. How am I telling the girls to stay focused when I'm getting a little flustered by this new guy? So I don't remember what happened, but something happened where they decided, you know what if we fate date for the podcast or for the show that she has, and he's trying to do like a project and she's trying to do her thing. So whatever it was beneficial or mutually beneficial to both of them to fate date, but obviously feelings came up out of that. So it was a nice like college read vibes, and you get all the English slangs and all the things. So I actually enjoyed it, and I want to read more from that author, which is why I want to find her and follow her online as well. Next author that I read is, or the next author that I read was Danielle Allen, Curvy Girl Summer. I think I read this around July. Fun. This was one of my first, yeah, this is one of the first books that I read that had me laughing. Like, the banter, I was new to it at first when he was like clowning her outfits and stuff like that. At first, it was a little weird. I was like, he's clowning her. But I got into it and I kind of, that was my introduction to like good banter between two people. So she's trying to online date. So she goes to this bar where this bartender works, and she tells him, "Hey, I'm gonna be going on dates." Da 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 da. Da. He's like, "That's what you're wearing," but her dates were so bad, and after each date, they would talk about it. And he's like, "Bring your dates here, kind of like a safety thing. Like I can keep an eye on you, and if your dates are weird, we can kick him out and stuff like that." But you saw them develop feelings for each other. She was crushing on him from day one, but obviously she didn't know if he would feel the same way. And eventually, they get together. So that was a fun read, and I truly enjoy that. And she has a second book coming out this year called Plus Size Player. I'm excited to read that as well. So that was my introduction to Danielle Allen. I'm scanning through real quick to see if I read any other. Um, yes, I did read a second book by her, which was, I think, a lot shorter. Yeah, Big Nick Energy, another short read by her. Let me see how many pages it was. Yeah, it was only 138 pages. This one was another like college romance, but what am I trying to say? So basically, they are getting ready for, so in this book, they're getting ready for a high school, or was it high school reunion or college reunion? I think it was a college reunion. Yeah, her college crush. So they're getting ready for this like reunion thing years later, and she's like, I hope my crush is gonna be there. If he's there, I'm gonna take my chance. I'm gonna shoot my shot. She was like very aggressive in the intro of what she's gonna do. I'm like, this girl is gonna blow this opportunity. But it turns out like, and it was one of those things where it's like you plan for how, like, if I see him, this is what I'm gonna say, this is what I'm gonna walk up to him and say. But they end up meeting like just casually, like he bumped into her by the elevator, like actually bump into her, and he was so concerned about how she was feeling and all that thing. So he's like, look, sorry to bump into you, if you need anything, I'm here. And then their conversation was just so like easy, and he was such a sweetheart. Like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, there's no way this is going like perfectly, like I put in my review, I was like, I wasn't sure where this was going when I started reading it, because Asha sounded like she was just ready to risk it all. They were getting ready for homecoming, and she was like, I'm gonna get this man by any means necessary. But their story turned into like the cutest story. I love the way their relationship started. From him running into her to their conversations. They talked about books, and they went on this art date and just all the things. But there was a little bit of, there was some spice in there too. But he was just a good, thoughtful, tender, attentive guy. Like it could have, I don't think she could have pictured it being or going any more perfect than it did. So yeah, that was a good short read. I enjoyed that as well. Next author is Miss Gray Huffington. And Miss Gray Huffington, mm, one of my favorite authors that I read in 2024 and continue to read. So I read Chemistry, and I think I read it in July. So I heard about Chemistry on TikTok, and I was like, oh, this is going to be my first like gangster romance. That was my first thought. I see this man on the cover and I'm like, it's gonna be a romance with like unaliving and things going on like that. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be my first hood romance. And I commented on the girl that posted the book and she's like, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be my first book with no spice. And she's like, there's spice. And I was like, oh wait, oh, okay. So this book is like, I don't even want to say the word gangster because it was more like obviously you know what he do. Like you can tell that he does illegal activities, but he's not scared. And he sets eyes on this one female because at first his dad was like, "You need to get married before I die." Like his dad is old, he's taking over the business. He's like, "The one thing you need to do is find somebody and give me some grandkids or something." Like, and he's like, he's not interested in that. Like, he don't see himself as someone being in no committed relationship. So whatever. He runs into this girl and immediately was like, "You're coming with me." Sir, what? He's like, "You're coming with me." And she just like, I was actually shocked that she was just so like submissive. I was like, okay, okay. But there was so much more that happened. It's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. Chemistry to this day is probably my top male of 2024. Yeah. Yeah. And funny thing, when I read this book and I hear the name Gray Huffington, I did not think that was a woman. And then I started looking at all the authors I read, and they're all females. They are all females, which makes me even more like, I just can't believe. But yeah, that was book one in the Grey List series. So immediately after reading that, I was like, now I have to go back and start her books from the front, from the top. So I'm still going through all the other books by her. So next I read Luca, which is like her first book, I think, ever or something. So Luca is book one in the, what is that series called? I can't even think of the name of the series right now. But I read Luca right after Chemistry. Then she came out with Rather. I read that, loved it. And then I read Lyric. So Luca Lyric, Chemistry Rather. And then Rugger is book three, Chemistry Rather Rugger. So I read that. So I've read five books, I believe, by Miss Gray Huffington, and I'm actually going to start book number six or seven, six tonight, which is Lake, because I'm trying to continue that series and finish that out. So the next book after Lyric is Lake, and I need to read that immediately. So yeah, love Gray Huffington. I'm trying to make my way through her series. Another amazing black author. You're gonna get a long prologue. A lot of people don't like that, but I love it. I don't have a problem with it. I enjoy those writings. Then I read Lady Nisha, and I need to read more books by her. So I read Losing Control, which was the longest book I read in 2024. It's 617 pages. I would say outside of Chemistry, this was my first urban romance because Chemistry is still a little sophisticated. You know what I mean? But Losing Control was straight up hood. It follows a rapper who, you know, he's the typical rapper. The typical rapper have a lot of girls doing his thing, has a lot of issues and underlining things that he's working through. And then the female, she has dealt with a major loss and trying to put her life back together. They run into each other. She's nothing like what he's normally into. Nothing. But that intrigued him. And he's like, I want to get to know you. So you get to see them come together. You still get all these rapper vibes and all that. Really good story. I know a lot of people, I think a lot of people were like, I didn't make him like a book boyfriend because he was just a very mean guy. But I love how their story came together. Really, really good. But she has a couple other books that I heard are really, really good. And if they're anything like that to make me laugh, the jokes were joking. Loved it. All right. Then I read a book. I think I read two books by Octavia Grant. I read Body Count again because another creator that I follow, she was saying that whenever you need like an in between book, she likes Octavia Grant. It's going to be something short, it's going to be something like unhinged, something is going to happen that you're not going to expect. So that's what I use her books for. Is like that in between after I finish like a 600-page book, I need something quick and short just to keep my reading going, but not gonna be like too deep. So body count is exactly what you think it is. This girl has been with so many people that she can't even remember who she's been with. So when you're reading it, it's only 50 something pages, and you're like, what is gonna happen? Something crazy happens at the end, and I just had my mouth on the floor because I did not expect that. Because I was like, where is this going? She's living her best life. She's doing what she do. What is gonna happen? But that was good. And I also read Work Husband. When I talk about Unhinged, that book was Unhinged. So yeah, if you're looking for that little short read of kind of like, what's the other word for it? It's not horror. It's like suspense mixed with, I don't even know. I don't even know. All right, next up is Shon. I started reading Shon. I started reading her short books as well. I read the Kingstown series, so I read His Majesty, Midnight, Yours, and Cravens. 4 books in the series. Really short. I think this one was 61 pages. Then 84 pages. So they're all pretty short, but they're really spicy and to the point. Really good. Like they're good for what they are. They're short books. I give them around 4 stars. They're just short, to the point, really cute, spicy reads. Again, for those in between my other regular long books. Um, Next up, I read Rivero Fate Mazarura. She's another English author, I believe. So I ran into this book while I was at the bookstore, and I see that it's by a black author, and it's about the Olympics. Pretty much, she says, "Let the games begin." So pretty much is what you would expect to be like the Olympics. So the male is there for the Olympics. The female is trying to get this internship to work the Olympics. They run into each other again, literally. And you get to see their relationship and the behind the scenes and stuff like that of the Olympics. So this was perfect for me to read. I read it in August after the Olympics. So it was a really good read. And then I read DL and then I read JL Seegars, and I've read a couple books from her. I consider her to be up there with Kennedy Ryan. Like you're gonna get really in depth quality novels, love story that's gonna be deep. It's gonna be deep. There's gonna be something in there. The first book I read was Restore Me. This follows the female. She lost her husband 4 years ago, so she's navigating life ever since. I don't think she's really dated since losing him. And the male, Dominic, he used to be best friends with the husband that passed away. Dominic always pretended to hate the female because that was his way of coping with being in love with her before she even met her husband. So, all those years before, he held that secret in of he's the first one to see her and fall in love with her, but then she ended up finding this guy and blah blah blah. So you get to navigate their relationship where now they have to work together. So it's kind of like forbidden love, forced proximity, and a little bit of a second chance. But yeah, that was spicy, but it was way deeper with just them navigating the grief and the history and all that stuff. Then I read Revive Me. Now, Revive Me was the first one that said, you won't get a happy ending after this first book. And I was like, you said what? First of all, I love, no, let me not phrase it that way. What do you mean we're not going to get a happy ending? So this book was divided into 3 parts. Book 1, no happy ending. Book 2, no happy ending. Book 3, they kind of had a happy ending. So that was good. A roller coaster, but good. Then after that, I read Release Me, the female, again, running from her past, an abusive relationship. She's trying to apply for a job where this new guy works. Sebastian, boyfriend, he owns almost half of the town that she moves to. So she applies there, didn't get the job. She goes to another like gentleman's club where he owns that. She didn't know that. They run into each other and she's like, and then he's like, actually, I want to offer you the job to be the manager of my restaurant, of my rooftop restaurant. And that whole story was just a beautiful story of how he spoke life to her, of how he listened to her. He wanted to just cater to her. I love that. But then of course she's dealing with her past. So there's some deep stuff in there as well. But Sebastian, up there with chemistry. Up there with chemistry. But yeah, JL Seegers I consider to be up there. And I need to read the last book in the series, which is Reclaim Me. That's the next book I need to read pretty soon as well. Who else? The only other book that I read that was not by a black author was Just for the Summer. I kept seeing it, Abby Eminez, and that book all over June, July, August, and I was like, I should read it. I did enjoy it a lot though. I gave it 4 stars. It was really, really good. It was actually more deep than I thought it was gonna be. So love that. Next up is Intrigued by Danger by Endiya Carter. This is supposed to be book 3 in the series. I accidentally read book 3. So it is at this point that I realized that my mic stopped working. So I'm going to try to do a quick little voiceover just for the ending of this video. I honestly don't even remember what I was saying because this is days later that I'm editing. But anyway, Intrigued by Danger is a series. It's the Danger brothers, so 3 brothers, but I accidentally read book number 3. So I still need to eventually go back to read book number 1 and book number 2. But spicy BDSM, I talked about it before. It was my first BDSM book with kinks, but I enjoyed it a lot. And that book is my favorite and also the favorite for a lot of people. So now I'm like, do I even want to go back and read the other 2 books? The only other authors that I read for the rest of this video, I think, was Brianne Deney. She was my most read author because most of her books are like short. So I kept reading a lot of her books. I don't remember how many in total that I read, but I know I read quite a few of her books in 2024, and I've already read the 3rd book in that series this year. So yeah, Brianne Deney. The only thing with her books is that they're in 3rd person, which is like not my favorite, but she has a lot of quick short reads as well. Yeah, and the only other black author I think I read was Evelyn Lee. This was my first book for her. I read Elevator Pitch and I enjoyed it a lot. Another book that had me just laughing and giggling. And she's coming out with more books this year as well, so I'm excited for that. But oh, I forgot to mention Miss Bella J. I read 1201, one of my favorite books of 2024. She has a couple other books as well. And when I talked about Shon, I forgot to mention Just Right, which was my first poly romance that I read. Really, really good. She already came out with a second poly romance that I just finished in January. So we'll talk about that in my January recap. But yeah, I consider now that I've been reading for what is it, 8 9 months now, I enjoy the romance space. I enjoy reading black authors, small black authors. Like I have a soft spot for that, like indie authors trying to make it in this business. So going forward, I'm going to be reading a lot more black authors, indie authors, supporting, sharing, reading, and I'm excited to just grow my bookshelf over the next year. So if you enjoy this video, be sure again to come back every month to see what I'm reading and what I'm excited to read. There's a lot of new books coming out almost every day. Almost every day. Like, I have a long running list of books that I want to read. And let me tell you, if the world stopped today and they're like, read all the books on your list, I would have enough books to like read for a long time if nobody else come out with a new book. I have so many books that I just want to go back and read because I feel like I missed out on a lot, but I'm taking it one book at a time and trying to just enjoy the moment and the reading. And then when I read a book, I like to go into my reading journal and try to just document that book because I feel like when you look back at it, you can kind of remember what the book was about, what was the setting, what was the names of the characters and stuff like that. So I'm working on getting just more familiar with my reading journal and just trying to make it fun and cute but still make sense to where if I open up my journal to someone, I can be like, yeah, this book was about this. It was set in this city and these people, and this was what it was about. So, yeah, that's my goal for 2025 is just to read more books, document more books, share more books. And most of my Amazon books, they're linked in my storefront. So I have a idea list with all the books. But be sure to follow me here. Be sure to follow my Bookstagram for quicker, shorter content. And then again, I will keep updating you guys as time goes on. So that's pretty much it for this video. I don't think I really said anything else. Again, I don't remember what I said. Let me know down below how many books you read in 2024. What are your reading goals for 2025? And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to just give your girl a thumbs up, like, comment, share this video with someone who is looking for more books by Black authors to read. I've been making sure I follow all of the authors now online just so I can keep up with them and what they're coming out with. So if you enjoyed this video, give your girl a thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in my January wrap up reading video. So see you guys later. Bye.